Hello. This presentation is called Improving Reflective Practice in the Private Sector of ELL Education in Korea by Samantha Levinson. So let's set the stage. A tense work climate. Tension and stress often arise in a Korean workplace due to financial stress, preconceived notions about a minority group, different cultural expectations and roles as employees or employers, lack of understanding, and different ways of expressing concern in which may be due to cultural norms. Due to COVID-19, stress is at an all-time high for many business owners. It's more important than ever to improve our relationships in the workplace. Common preconceived cultural notions. Common Korean preconceived notions of native English teachers include native English teachers are difficult to work with. They don't teach as well as the Korean counterpart. They aren't as hardworking as their Korean counterparts. They're only qualified to teach conversation. Maybe they're not real teachers. They're not responsible. The list goes on. Common Korean preconceived notions about the Korean staff members include they don't give proper notice for important events or responsibilities. They lack communication. They lack respect or speak down or make commands. There's a lack of collaboration in the work environment. They change their expectations without notice. Maybe they can't even speak English. The list goes on. So how can we improve our relationship in a viable way without offending the counterpart? Well, critical incidence would be one viable way to do so. Definition of critical incidence. The critical incident protocol was developed through the Annenberg Institute for School Reform at Brown University and introduces the concept of personal and shared teacher reflection. Reflective practice includes identifying a problem, identifying why it happened, but sometimes it stops there. The meaning of the episode and how it affects our practice can become overlooked. This was a great definition of a critical incidence. A critical incidence is any unplanned event that occurs during class. By reflecting on these incidences in a formal manner, language teachers can uncover new understanding of taken for granted perceptions of teaching and the learning process. I love that idea. So a community of practice, if we look over on the right-hand side, we see this map. Community of practice, professional development and learning, professional dialogue and discussion, and analytical response to critical incidents all add to this community of practice. And they play off of our reflective practice. So the community directly interacts with our reflective practice. So we have two English teachers working with critical incidents in classroom practice. Knowledge and beliefs and their identity lead to the community. So again, a community of practice. Here we have professional development and learning add to our community of practice. So we have two English teachers who have a writing critical incidence, classroom practice, knowledge, belief, and identity leads directly to this community. So how do we create that community? The professional development and learning contribute. There's four factors that contribute: ongoing and follow-up, a trustful and safe environment, discuss and analyze critical incidents, and accessibility to critical incidents and solutions. So being able to talk about our issues and follow up on these circumstances, whether it's in the classroom or with our coworkers or with our supervisors, is going to directly tie into our teaching experience. Educator reflection, self-improvement. The idea of educators as learners makes many students and teachers alike uncomfortable. But why? Should educators be encouraged to engage in reflective practice? Couldn't all teachers benefit from receiving coaching from other professionals in the field, such as their coworkers and colleagues? Of course they would. But that requires educators and administrators to reevaluate preconceived notions. And these notions are very strong, especially in the Korean work atmosphere typically. So what does it mean to be an educator? If our expertise is viewed as a living, growing, dynamic force, everyone can benefit from a set of outside ears, collaboration per se. So best practices include reflection. English education practice in the private sector in Korea requires collaboration and reflection. Questions will arise. How do we best read and apply benchmark literacy results for our ELL students? Maybe teaching a student with one particular strength or an imbalance in their 4 learning groups. That's very typical, very common. Teaching speaking before phonics or teaching speaking after phonics. When's the correct time to implement? How do you implement before versus after? How do you create a productive co-teaching environment? These are really important questions to answer, and they're difficult to answer. And collaboration is the key to creating the best learning environment for the students. So often ELL private sector work environment is an insular endeavor. What tools and techniques can we utilize to make collaboration more readily available and acceptable in the private sector of Korean ELL education? That's the question I was striving to answer. Let's go on to the next slide. Multicultural environment inventory. One test or survey that I came across used the 5-point Likert type scaling system. It's called the Multicultural Environment Inventory Revised, MEI-R for short. It's a 27-item instrument developed to assess individual level the extent in which graduate training program addresses multicultural issues. But I was struck by how pertinent many of these topics were in a Korean teaching environment. So it could certainly be adapted and used for native English instructors or the Korean counterparts working in Korea. So again, items are rated on a 5-point Likert type scale, ranging from 1, not at all, to 5, with the highest score indicated by the greatest degree of focus on the multicultural issues. Let's have a look at it. Here are some of the pertinent questions. Again, it's an instrument developed to assess the extent in which a training program addressed multicultural issues, but I've adapted it for the Korean classroom, and here are some of the key points that I thought were most pertinent to teaching in Korea. Some of the points include multicultural issues are considered important component in supervision. Being multicultural competent is valued. There's a place I can go to feel safe and valued. I generally feel supported. I feel my comments are valued in class. The environment makes me feel comfortable and valued. There are faculty with whom I feel comfortable discussing multicultural issues and concerns. The faculty are making an effort to understand my point of view. I feel comfortable discussing multicultural issues with supervision. When recruiting new faculty, I'm completely honest about the climate. faculty members are doing research in multicultural issues. Now, these I felt were pertinent to our work experience, and I put them in a Google slide Leichhardt MEI-R document, which can be viewed here. Workplace implementations. So again, this could be implemented in a variety of ways to foster a safe and friendly environment in which trust is established amongst teachers. It could be faculty to faculty relationships, supervision to faculty relationships, faculty to students, or even supervision to student evaluations. Often, when I developed this, I had in mind sort of teacher to teacher, faculty to faculty relationships. However, it could be that a student's point of view is not being considered by the teacher, or the teachers are not considering the Korean work environment. I mean, it certainly goes both ways. So this was a chart developed by Tripp. It's called the Diagnostic Teaching Cycle. And there's 3 phases, including implementation, interpretation of needs, meeting of the needs, and reviewing the strategy and reassessing the needs. Like in any good action research, this is a cyclical cycle. So we observe the situation, we create a critical incident plan, such as the survey, we plan a response, we implement the response, we observe the effects of the response and the new needs, and we create a new critical incidents plan. And it continues on. So after giving, for example, after giving the MEI-R survey, we have to not only plan a response and implement a new response, but see how that response needs to be changed to better foster results. So the next slide I want to show you is called Explicit and Direct Problem Solution Response. So a couple of quotations that really struck out to me about the importance of creating a better work environment using either the MEI-R or culturally sensitive response include: one would speculate that perceiving one's training program commitment to multicultural issues through the curriculum would be associated with a greater feeling of comfort within the environment. Furthermore, more multicultural issues in the curriculum and training would also be related to faculty doing multicultural research in the program. So it not only brings up the importance of multicultural issues to the forefront, but it also puts the students and the other staff members' point of view into consideration and makes it important. Another quote I liked was, English teachers who share critical incidents that have occurred in the classroom will not feel a sense of shame if such events happen. Problem in the classroom. They will not regard themselves as incompetent. Rather, they will be open-minded and willing to accept other teachers' suggestions. Teachers should also have a genuine respect for one another's opinions. Eventually, they can view themselves as part of a community in which they are cared and they can care and be cared for. So this sense of community amongst teachers that sometimes exists and other times doesn't, but is so important for a positive relationship with the students and with one another, and just an effective teaching environment as well. Be an advocate. Explicit expectations lead to culturally sensitive responses. So what's the best way to integrate workplace reflection in your workplace? What sort of action research would you take to bring this issue to the forefront and also create a sense of accountability that not only does this matter, but if staff members are or teachers are not to take this seriously and consider others' needs, then they will certainly be held accountable for their actions. Would the MEI-R be a useful tool to suggest usage of in your workplace? What would be your next steps? What is another way to open up communication and understanding in the Korean workplace? So again, I would love to see action research plans for the Korean workplace. How can we open up dialogue and implement sort of a more collaborative atmosphere for teachers? Because sometimes I feel that many people complain in similar fashions, but it stops there. There's never an effective communication with those who we can't understand. So there must be a way to break that barrier, and hopefully this discussion has given you a couple of ideas of how you could break that barrier in your own workplace. So next steps, if MEI inventory could be used to gather data, how do we use that data to help improve our relations? MEI inventory can help open communications and act as a reminder of the importance of cultural sensitivity. It can help build connections and offer opportunity for a shared experience and new knowledge and experience. Monthly team building activities, lunch or dinner meetings can also help build camaraderie. A collective database might be a way to share important files related to teaching best practice or critical incidents, and could be compiled for all teachers to collaborate there. Critical incident implements, Chin 2018 suggests the following 5 steps are critical in creating this work environment: discussion and personal sharing, the systematic collection of critical incidents and solutions, the provision of a safe and trusting environment, and 4, the ongoing follow-up and support, maybe being the most crucial step, follow-up and support. So not only to give this survey and to take these steps, whatever your steps might be, but to follow up and make them work in the second round and make them better in a cyclical way until the work environment is where you'd like it to be. So here are my references, and thanks for listening. I'm really interested to hear about other